On all things COVID-19 as it affects the city of Toronto, we're joined live by Mayor John Tory from home. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, Goody.
Start off with this. Your reaction to the Adamson BBQ drama that played out yesterday.
Well, the right result prevailed in the end. You've got to have respect for the law, and this man's entitled to his opinions about those laws and about what we're all going through, including the pain that is undoubtedly being experienced by many businesses. But at the end of the day, the law is the law. And he's now shut down, and I hope he respects that, because we just can't have people operating as if we're in the Wild West here, where where people just decide they're going to respect the law when it suits them. This is an agonizingly arrived at decision that was taken by the governments, by the province, and supported by the city and by me, to take steps that we believed, based on expert advice, would help to curtail the spread of this virus. And so if people just were deciding that they're going to either follow that or not based on their own opinions on these kinds of issues, then we'll never come to grips with the virus, and we will have a disrespect for the law that just isn't healthy in a healthy democracy like ours. So he's shut down. I hope he stays shut down of his own volition, because that would be the proper thing for him to do, and we'll go from there.
So the owner in this situation, Adam Skelly, he posted on social media a day in advance that he had had enough and that he was going to be opening. He's got a massive following on social media, so this was all over social media. This was all over television in advance of this happening. Yet he was able to operate from 11 to 4, which, if you check his website for Adamson BBQ, those are his normal operating hours. So he had a full day of regular work, 11 to 4. How is it that this situation was allowed to carry on for the entire workday? It seems like this was really a mishandling by police or officials. Well, I don't want to put it just on police, by officials or whoever was involved.
Yeah. Part of the problem in this instance is there are many different kinds of officials that can be involved. There are bylaw officers, there are the health department people, and there are the police. And the police have acknowledged that the thing was not handled properly in the first instance earlier in the day. And so that acknowledgement has been made. And I think that's honest and that's transparent. And they made a mistake in terms of how it was handled. In the end, the right result was achieved, which is an order was placed on that restaurant, closing it. And I just hope that, again, this man decides that he, like everybody else in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, respects the law and follows what the law says. And even if he has opinions that are different, he can work to change the law. He can take the government to court, or he can run for office. But at the end of the day, he's got to follow the law.
Yeah, and look, I mean, we all feel for small businesses. We all want them back on their feet, doing well. Small businesses are what make Toronto, as great as it is. But we got to do this within the public health guidelines. So, this is really sort of a landmark moment here, right? This is the first business that is openly this isn't a hidden party that someone posted in a private Facebook group. This guy was out there publicly saying, I'm doing this. So this is, I think this is really precedent setting. What type of fine or punishment do you think is coming here? And do you not think it has to be extremely punitive? Because if not, what's to stop other businesses from saying, well, okay, you know what, this guy gets a slap on the wrist. I could open up for a full day, do a bunch of business, get all this free pub. This is a worthwhile trade-off.
It is a serious moment. And as you know, I've said this before, I don't decide who gets charged. I don't set the fines. I'm not a judge and I'm not a police officer. But I do think I can have an opinion on these things. And I do think that people like this, who, in a very political way, and that's fine. I mean, the country, one of the other liberties we have is the liberty to protest. And he's chosen to do that by breaking the law, which I do not endorse, but he's protesting. He made it very political yesterday. And I think people like that who choose to do that should, when they're openly flouting the law, be given a hefty penalty to show that you can't just decide because of your political views you're going to obey some laws you like and not obey other laws you don't like. So I would hope that when he comes to court, he'll have his day in court, and that he will be given, if he's found guilty, a substantial penalty for that. But again, that's up to the courts and they'll deal with that. I just think for the moment the message has been sent properly and loud and clear, which is please respect the law. We understand small businesses are suffering. Nobody understands that better than those of us who have to make these agonizing decisions to try to stop this virus, while at the same time trying to keep the economy going. But I've said before, a healthy economy requires healthy people. And so while I'm well aware of the pain that many people are suffering as a result of this shutdown, I think Premier Ford was right in bringing it forward at this time, and we just have to get through it. And we're already a couple of days into it, and I'm looking for the other end and how we can help to get people back to the restaurants and back to the shops. I hope people do not go and patronize big box stores on on Black Friday, and I hope those big box stores do not have in-person sales, and that people instead will place an order online or get a curbside pickup from small independent retailers, because that's a way in which we can help. Same with dinner tonight. It's Wednesday. I think we used to have in the spring Takeout Wednesday. Well, we should get that going again and have people take out dinner tonight from restaurants to make sure that they're able to at least have a lifeline in addition to what the governments are doing for them during this now 25 days we have left.
Yeah, I'm all for any local initiatives that are going to help these local businesses at times like this, especially leading up to Christmas. Back to this Adamson BBQ story. The owner, again, Adam Skelly, he indicated to Councillor Mark Grimes yesterday that he plans on opening up again today. So, given that police admitted they made a mistake yesterday in allowing this to go on too long from open to close, how do you see this playing out today? I mean, is this going to be an 11:01 shutdown? I mean, it seems like if he's allowed to operate any longer than that, it's setting a really bad message.
I will just say that I think the mistakes that were made yesterday, and acknowledge, to give them their due, they acknowledge they made a mistake, which we all do. We're human beings, and the mistakes that were made by the police will not be repeated. I think you're going to find there'll be people there very quickly to enforce the law. And my understanding is this man has potentially many different things he has to answer for in terms of the licensing or lack thereof of his restaurant and all the rest. And I would say, if you come back the second day, after having been ordered the first day to close, albeit perhaps a bit later than necessary, if you come back a second day and do it again in a very political way, he's free to do that in this country, but so are the authorities free then to throw the book at him, which is exactly what they should do today, and I hope that's what they do. That's not my decision, but I hope they throw the book at him.
Mayor Tory, do you think the Premier was too soft in his comments on this situation yesterday? He was asked about it and, kind of sympathized with the owner.
Gurdeep, it's the same balancing act the Premier and myself and others have had to go through every single day, which is that we feel deeply sorry and deeply saddened about the impact that this shutdown is having and the previous shutdowns on businesses. But at the same time, we have an overriding responsibility to protect the public health, to protect the healthcare system, to keep the schools open, to keep the childcare open. And that is what we are doing to save lives. And so I'm very sympathetic to the plight of all restaurateurs and small businesses, but we have done what we believe to be the right thing to do based on expert advice, based on global best practices to keep people healthy in the city of Toronto. And so I'll stand up for that at the same time as expressing sympathy for small business. But when people deliberately flout the law, then they should be dealt with accordingly, because that can't stand. That is not right. And as much sympathy as I have for people who are struggling during the pandemic, people have to follow the law. We all have to follow the law.
Okay, let's squeeze in some viewer questions until I get the wrap from the director. The first one comes to us from Tim. I think this is a really good question. The question is, I heard a report that says 1 in 3 Toronto public schools have an active case of COVID-19, yet schools are open and restaurants and businesses are closed. Do you think the Premier has this backwards?
I said earlier on, I mean, we have set up, for right or for wrong, and I believe it's right that we protect the opportunity for kids to go to school, because I think it's important that they learn, but it's also very important for their mental health and well-being. And let's not forget, they spent months out of school last spring. So we've been really trying to design the different things we do, and we've been working very well in concert with one another to keep the schools open, to keep the childcare open, and to keep the elderly as protected as we possibly can, given the problems we've experienced there. I think that when you see that a third of the schools have an outbreak, of course, is defined as 2 or more cases, and they've been dealt with quite well. And I think given the number of schools we have, which are in the hundreds and hundreds, that actually things are going fairly well in the schools. But I turn to the medical officer of health pretty well every day, and we ask the question about schools. And the minute that she says it's a problem, then we'll talk to the province and we'll talk amongst ourselves about what to do about it in terms of beyond all the measures that are being taken. But at the moment, she has, as obviously as we all are concerned about those places where there have been outbreaks, but not to the point of saying we should close the schools. Right.
I guess staying nimble, as we've said many times throughout this pandemic, staying nimble in this situation is absolutely key. I mean, you make the rules, but if things get out of hand in one area, you got to stay flexible and try and adapt accordingly.
Exactly.
This next question, Premier Ford is expected to lay out guidelines for celebrating the holidays during the pandemic. Have you spoken with the Premier about what we might hear today? What might that look like?
I do not have any advanced knowledge of that. My office was expecting we might hear something late last night, but I haven't heard anything this morning on that. I mean, I think people can be looking to some kind of an arrangement, and I'm not saying I know this to be so, but if you look at in Quebec where they said you could go to a certain number of events with certain numbers of people and that kind of thing, we've already placed, as you know, quite strict restrictions on social gatherings, even in your own home, outside of the people that you live with. And that was done because one of the ways in which this virus has been spreading is contact with other people, obviously. And a lot of that was happening in social gatherings in people's homes. So there are restrictions on right now that say that you're not supposed to spend time with people outside of your own home, with exceptions for people who live alone. And so I think you'll see something more along that line. I mean, I think it's not possible to prohibit, nor would anybody set out to prohibit or ban Christmas. But I think like all the other holidays we've been through, Easter and Ramadan, and Ramadan and so on, there are going to be strong recommendations, if not, restrictions that are placed on the kinds of activities that people can engage in. Because even if the 28-day period has come to an end and we've seen some improvement, the last thing everybody wants to see, especially in light of our earlier discussion about the hardship this is posing for businesses and others, is to be sliding back into some kind of another shutdown or series of restrictions in the new year because we didn't, pay attention to our behavior at Christmas.
Mayor John Tory, we will leave it there today, and we'll all wait and watch to see what plays out in at Adamson BBQ today at 11 when that is supposed to open. Have a productive day. We'll chat with you again Friday. Don't
give this guy too much publicity. It's a political. A lot of this is a political stunt. So
absolutely,
let's be careful about that. We make a hero
but I mean,
that's
the thing.
In fact,
if the police had shut it down,
he's thumbing his nose at the system.
If the police had shut it down quickly yesterday, we wouldn't have given them that much publicity. That's part of the whole problem, right? I mean, the longer this is allowed to stay open, the longer we have to cover it.
I don't think it'll be open for long today, if at all. It shouldn't be open at all if this man was any kind of a respectful citizen and a person who really wanted to, respect the best interests of his fellow Torontonians.
All right, Mayor Tory, appreciate you joining us. We'll chat again soon.